I am so excited to welcome to the Project More Happy podcast today, Micah. I'm going to let you introduce yourself to the listeners today and kind of ground us in what we're going to talk about.
Well, I would be remiss if I didn't say that we are fellow horned frogs together. So go
We are.
frogs.
Thank you. We're
And,
fam.
so yes, I am a horned frog. I'm a mom. I am an entrepreneur, fundraiser by day, financial coach by night, and advocate for so many causes that I love and care about. But really, deep in my heart of hearts, I'm a person that likes to empower people and make sure that they have what they need to live successful lives.
Yes, I love that so much. And I love how you phrase that too, because I talk a lot about confidence in my work and we get confidence wrong all the time because confidence isn't about like having all the answers or knowing everything. It's about understanding that you have access to what you need to succeed. And that's what
Yes.
you're talking about here, right? It is,
Yes.
let's give people the tools and support they need so that they can show up as their best selves.
Absolutely. I have no shame in asking for help. So, absolutely.
Okay, so talk a little bit about the current work you're doing in that space, in the financial space, in the coaching and all that.
Absolutely. So really, this empowering financial coaching is kind of a love project that came out of my life experience. And so I have lived through the ups and downs, lefts and rights of divorce, of bankruptcy, of, almost everything you can go through in finances. And I find myself on the other side of it, rebuilt and kind of being successful. And I look kind of backwards over my journey and realize I wish I would have had someone to walk with me along that path. And so that's what we're creating at Empowering Financial Coaching, is we are being that person for lots of people who don't know who to ask the questions of, or even just need a, you know, non-prejudice, non-bias, non-emotional other party to kind of just look at what's going on and say, okay, you got this. Here's some choices. Here's what you have. Not all is not lost, and one step at a time.
Yeah, I heard somewhere recently that that there are two ways people emerge after tough challenges, right? The first is I went through it, so everyone else has to go through it too.
Mm,
And the second is I went through it, so I don't want anyone else have to go through it, right? That's why I do the happiness coaching, right? Because I went through the burnout and the pain and the depression and the anxiety. And I love that that's why you do this, because you went through all those hard things. So
yeah.
now you can help others not have to do it alone, not have to figure it out on their own, and really support other people through the process that you felt unsupported through.
Absolutely. I used to play sports. And so, I always pull from those sports analogies. Forgive me, those of you who don't play sports. But somebody once told me, you can read a million books about how to play basketball. You can read a million books about how to play any sport, really, football, volleyball. But you will only have the head knowledge of how that works, kind of logistically, academically, theoretically. And you can stand out on a basketball court and go, okay, I think I know how this works, but you won't actually know how to play. And so many people think they know about money because they've read lots of books, but then they get to actually doing money
Yeah.
and they feel shame and feel, like they've failed because they're they don't know what they're doing, and they just don't know where to go for resources. And that's why I am a coach of finances, is because you need that person to kind of take that knowledge and put it into play.
Yeah, and I love that you said doing money because there's no escaping it. Like
Yeah.
we have to do money, so we
Yeah.
may as well try and get the support we can and the help we can to do it in a way that works best for us and our goals and our dreams and our lives.
Absolutely. I've talked to people who have $10 in their checking account, and I've talked to people who have thousands of dollars in their checking account. And really, the questions are no different. It's, what are you going to do with your resources?
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. It seems so easy though, but a lot of times we don't.
It
We're so ashamed that we don't stop and ask those easy questions.
There's a lot of emotion tied up in money, and even I still struggle with that. I'm not immune to that. A lot of shame, a lot of, family baggage about how you learned about money. And so, you have to kind of break through and really have an honest conversation with yourself and lay it all out on the table, and say, okay, here's what I have. Here's what I'm trying to do. How does A go with B? And if the two don't match, then what choices and priorities do I have to make?
Yeah. So, what do you think on a big scale? I know I'm going to go off script here for a second. On a big scale, what do you think is missing from the current conversation around finances? Because so many of us we come up through a public school system or through a school system.
Yeah.
We all get those first jobs. We all do what we think we're supposed to be doing on the path of life and towards success. But the money conversation is not there. So, like, what's missing and why is it missing?
Yeah, I mean, lots of the problem-solving questions that you and I did in school where Bobby has $10, he buys 5 apples, and then he has, $2 left, right?
Right.
It's just, add, subtract.
It's
There
transactional.
it's not even transactional, it's just add and subtract, and there is no conversation about, um, like, the impact and influences going on in your world. What if, you know, Bobby has 2 kids, they need to eat, there are 4 people in the family, like, those kind of
I
things
love this,
going
by the way.
on in the world, right?
Yeah.
Like, you can't just go to the store and go, "Okay, I have $10, I need 5 apples, math is done." You have to, in real time, every single time you make a money decision, prioritize. And there's a lot of decision fatigue with that. And so if you don't have kind of a preset priority in your mind when you're going about in the world, you are constantly reprioritizing and reanalyzing and remathing all of the things in your money every time you buy something.
Yeah.
And there is no conversation about any of that. And so, if we had a conversation about priorities and values around money, that would change the whole conversation. But we are teaching math, which is great. We need
Right.
that
Right.
function. We need that skill. We need to know how to balance a checkbook. Great. Fine.
Yeah.
But doing the actual math is such a little part
Yeah.
of actually being financially successful and empowered.
Yeah. That is such a great way of framing that up. Because there's so many hidden forces that are not spoken about when it comes to money. Um, I know right now I just got my kids their first like debit card and checking
Mhm.
account and all that stuff, right? And so the
Yeah.
big conversations here are around interest. Where did this penny come from that all of a sudden appeared?
Yeah.
And the other one, we are automatically doing the giving, saving, spending, like the
Mhm.
envelope stuff. But part of why we're doing that, and my dad's gonna be really mad that I say this, because he was a financial planner, he is a financial planner, right? Is I think because he was so involved in money, like it skipped me.
Mm.
And so I am so intentional of like I want my kids to understand that whole picture a little better. And I don't count on the school system to do that because I didn't get it there. And I don't know if it's its place. I'm not sure. That's a different conversation for a different day. But I do think we need financially literate people
Right.
so that all of us can be set up for success in whatever success looks like for us.
Absolutely. I have early memories of the book fair, right?
Yes.
And, our parents gave us money and then we bought whatever we wanted, right? That's
Yeah.
how we thought money worked
Yeah.
in the early days of our life. And that is so far from how money works.
Yes.
And as a parent, I started to hate the book fair because my kids thought that that's how money worked.
Mhm.
You got money, you spent money on whatever you wanted.
Yeah.
But when they came to me with a book fair, I had to go back to so this $10 has to come from somewhere.
Right. Right.
And so now I have to make a choice. Do I do $10 on books or do I do $10 in savings or giving? Or am I buying $10 less of groceries this month? Or am I, you know,
Yeah.
discontinuing a subscription. Like, there is not an infinite amount.
Yeah.
And, we can get into the whole debt conversation
Yeah.
later,
Yeah.
because that's where we also get into a lot of trouble. It's because we
Yeah.
don't realize it's a finite resource, and then we start digging holes.
Hmm.
But we grow up with this idea of get money, spend money. And then
Hmm.
we become an adult and we're like, okay, get money, spend money. Oh, wait, I don't have enough.
Right.
And we
Right.
haven't had this, like, oh, wait, I have to make a choice.
Yeah.
I have to make a choice, this or that, not this and that.
Yeah.
And that's part of the conversation too.
Yeah. Yeah. You need a plan. You need a plan.
Absolutely.
You need a plan rooted
100%.
in your
Woo.
values and your priorities and all of those things that we
Yes.
as creatures, as humans, and it's
Yeah.
not just finances. Those are reflective places we don't spend enough time in.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
really difficult. Not only are we moving faster than ever, we're more distracted than ever. I mean, like, just name all the things that are pulling us in a million directions, but we just don't have enough places really encouraging us to do that deep work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's make this really like tangible for our listeners.
Let's go.
If we could fast forward and we do have a society of people who are financially literate, who understand how to prioritize toward their values, who understand this world that and have support in this world of finances, what does that look like for individual people, but for all of us too?
Yeah, the first thing I think of is no parent having to worry about meals on the table, bills being paid, those kind of things.
Yeah.
Um, Not only because they have a plan themselves, but A, they've been real honest with the finiteness of their resources, and B, they know how to ask their community for help.
Mm,
Um, my other hat that I wear is the nonprofit hat. And so many of the people that go and ask for help also have shame
yeah.
and guilt around
Totally.
that part. And in some ways, we look down on people that ask for help in that way too. But if we got to a point where we were all having these open and honest conversations, when we talked about how minimum wage doesn't cover anything anymore,
Hmm.
then we would really understand that if we're going to feed, house, care for each other, then, not only am I going to have to plan for my resources, I'm going to have to plan for my community's resources. And so that's what it ultimately means for me is, I'm taking care of myself. And then I know where then I can extend beyond myself to take care of others.
Oh, it so beautifully parallels to like the work I do with happy leaders too, right?
Mm,
Like we can't pour into other people. We
right.
can't lift other people up. We can't help other people shine if we are small and scared and fearful and shameful ourselves.
Yep.
And so we have to do the work for ourselves so that we can do the work for each other and for community. And community is so intrinsically tied to happiness.
Oh,
like
yeah.
the longest study they've ever done on happiness, like it comes down to the strength of your relationships.
100%.
But to have those relationships, we have to pour into ourselves. To have those
Yep.
relationships financially, we have to understand it for ourselves too.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I've met a lot of people in my life that they're like, oh, they're over givers, and then they
Hmm.
don't have enough money for gas. Like,
Yes.
I really appreciate where your heart is, but again, you can't pour into others until you take care of yourself.
Yeah.
And so, really having that honest conversation really helps you kind of really know your power.
Mm. What is the biggest change we'd see if we really prioritize this as a culture?
Oh my gosh. The credit card companies would get real mad. Um,
That's true.
and I have credit cards. I'm not anti credit card. I am anti debt as a um, you know, backup plan.
Yeah.
And I'm ferociously for paying down debt as fast as possible. But I think people would just be less scared, um, because you would have more choices. Like, you wouldn't have to stay in that job because of money. You wouldn't have to, you know, live in that place because of money. You wouldn't have to. I mean, I think there would just be more choices and more, for the lack of a better word, freedom,
Yeah.
in your own agency, because you had, empowered yourself.
I, that is the work that so many of us are doing, is trying to remind one another and ourselves, because I have to do it all the time,
Yeah.
of the power we actually have over our lives.
Yes. It
And
doesn't
we do,
happen
and
to you.
it
Yeah.
might not, it might feel like you're at the expense of how much are they going to pay me and how much is my time worth, but it's actually, once you understand your money situation, your priorities, like, when you have that knowledge base, um, you can make more empowered decisions. You do have
Yeah.
the power in it.
Yeah, and how much your time is worth and your skills are worth. I mean, there's a whole conversation around all of that. You don't let people devalue you anymore because you know how much you're worth. Um, you know, there's a whole conversation about, is it better to pay somebody else to do something than you do it yourself, because maybe you get paid this much an hour, and to pay somebody else who's an expert at that, some other fee. Let's do all that math and make the world work.
Oh, okay. I love this because it's such a, like, to me it is, I mean, it's so aligned with the work I do, but it's also such a gap that
Mm,
you can see and you can feel playing out on a national scale right
yeah.
now. There's so much fear,
Yes.
and
Yes, yes.
there is so much anger too. But if you trace it all, so much of it comes down to resources, which is time, money,
Yeah.
and energy, right? Like,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
okay. So how do we get from here to there?
Well, empowering financial coaching is doing it one parent and one family at a time. One webinar, one, conversation at a time. I once was told that you feel like you're not doing anything. If you feel like you're not doing anything, do something. Um, and everybody wants to, do world peace or win a Nobel or, all of those kind of things. And I think for us at Empowering, we're starting right here and in our community. Like, and so, you know, we make free resources. And then for those who are ready to take the next step, we have, that group webinar. And for those who are ready to really kick it into high gear, we have the one on one coaching. And so, um, for us, it's meeting people where they are and helping them really empower themselves. And so, you know, that's how we're going to change the world.
Yeah. Well, and you echo what I talk about from a leadership perspective a lot, which is, if you go into it thinking I'm going to change the world,
Mhm.
you start playing really small because it seems so daunting. You don't always know where to start. But if we reframe it as, I'm going to change, influence my world, right? My world is the people and communities I interact with every day.
Exactly.
And that to me has always felt a lot more doable, but
Yes.
also a lot more impactful, right? Like, you are
Yeah.
literally um, influencing, however you're choosing to show up in your energy and with your gifts, you are influencing a relationship and a life that will then turn around and influence their world too. And when you think about it like that, then, those one-on-one conversations, those community building initiatives, those, I like to talk to entrepreneurs about this a lot, because people get upset when only one person signs up to a workshop that they've promoted for 2 months, right? Like, we've all been there.
That is one more person.
There's
Yes.
one person now that you can give all your attention to and
Yeah.
equip them with the support and knowledge and whatever it is they need where they are in that moment.
Yeah. I think it comes from my nonprofit background.
Yeah.
And so it's like if one person walks in the door and gets that, health kit full of blankets and whatever, it's one more person that's going to be warm tonight.
Yeah.
So that's really how I look at it.
Yeah. Okay. What, and you can give me a couple if you want, but
Okay.
what is one action or step that can get someone started down this path for themselves?
Okay. I actually give people 3.
Okay. Let's do it.
When I'm talking to anybody for the first time and they were like, I have no idea where to start. My financial world's a hot mess.
Yeah.
I feel overwhelmed. I don't know what to do. And the first thing I tell them is go get all the statements from everything and do an honest assessment
Yeah.
of what resources you have. And when I say resources, I mean, what do you have to make your world happen? So, some people have WIC, some people have income, some people have child support. So, like, what are your resources to make the things in your world happen? Do an honest assessment and don't say, well, that doesn't count because, and this doesn't do because, and whatever. You need to know what you're working with. You need to
Yeah.
know the tools in your tool belt.
Yeah.
Then the next thing is you need to tell yourself where it's been going.
That's the
Because if
part
you,
people don't like.
no, it's really not. Because when they do that,
Yeah.
they know for the first time, it's ugly.
It is.
You've been going and getting coffee too much, or all those things. And I'm not against Starbucks and coffee and all that kind of stuff. Honestly, I don't think stopping drinking Starbucks is going to change your financial life most of the time. But you need to know how much
Yeah.
you're doing it.
Yeah.
And if that's really a value you hold. If that makes your day, then it's a value you hold.
Right.
You just need to decide that and not just do it because it's a habit.
Right. Well, and the other thing I love about that before you move on is $3 a day doesn't feel that big.
Yeah.
But if you look at what you've spent the past month and you're doing $3 every day, but you're $100 short on your electricity bill, like
Yes. Yeah.
then that's where you get to start seeing how things piece together. And so it's
Yeah.
not no Starbucks, it's how do I make everything work?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you'll read all these help articles and they'll be like, here's, 10 fun saving tips. Sure,
Yeah.
eat at home and don't get coffee and whatever. You have talked nothing about choices
Right.
and values that are going behind that. And so I'm going to feel deprived. I'm
Yeah.
going to feel stressed because what I'm doing there isn't changing my life. It's just making me feel deprived and like I have to do one more thing or think about one more thing or whatever. We have to figure out why we're making the choices. If I'm making that choice because I want to send my kid to camp this summer,
Mm-hmm.
that becomes no longer a deprivation. I
Yeah.
am working for something.
That's right. That's right. But you have to
So,
have all that. You have to have all the knowledge
yeah,
to be able to do those things.
yeah. And then I can drive right past that coffee place with no problem.
That's right.
And then the third thing is when you do the first one and you do the second one and it feels out of whack and you don't know how to put it back together, ask for help.
Mm.
And that could either mean the local nonprofits in your community, if you need help with electric bill and those kind of things, if it's that far out of whack, or get a coach, learn how to play ball. Like, let's go. There are people in your world that will help you. Lots of banks now have free resources. I'm the first to tell you, go use free resources too.
Yeah.
We jokingly at my house, I have one child on the spectrum and I have a couple of ADHD childs. Like we build teams.
Yeah.
We are not afraid to build teams of people. So if you build a team in your life, your bank, your financial coach, your therapists, like build a team.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You will be,
Yes.
far more successful as you start to build a team.
Yes. But we all need a team.
Yeah, yeah,
We're
yeah. Give them
social
a
beings.
fun name. We have
We're
fun
not
names for ours.
we're not supposed to, despite what we think, especially here in the US, where it is like hyper individualism, like do it yourself, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. We are not supposed to live like that.
No.
We are all interconnected, and the quicker we can realize that,
Yes.
the I won't say it's easy, but the
Mm-mm.
easier things get, because you realize you don't have to carry the burden all by yourself. And that takes away some of the shame.
100%. So if I could compare, the 6 months, even the 6 weeks after my divorce to just the last 6 weeks after my dad passed,
Mm-hmm.
um, no community,
Mm-hmm.
no support, to community out the wazoo.
Yeah.
And it didn't even, I mean, like the situations don't even have to be the same, but interconnectedness versus no interconnectedness, you only just have to raise your hand this much, just a tiny bit, for community to come to you. Whereas when you aren't connected to community and you haven't, made that team and you haven't at least put in a little effort to reach out, like you have to scream
Yeah.
for help. And it's community's job too.
Yeah.
But when we live in community, we know who is hurting, who needs it, and all of those kind of things. When we are isolated, those people have to work 10 times as hard to get the resources they need. So yes, I'm all about it.
So, what would you say to the person who's listening right now,
Mm-hmm.
who is struggling and ashamed and doesn't know who to turn to and is really scared to raise their hand? What would you say to them right now? Because I know they're listening. They're
Yeah.
in every neighborhood, in every pocket, in every workplace in the world,
Yeah.
because we lack that financial knowledge.
Yeah. Um, when I was in that space, I did not have the courage
Mm-hmm.
to ask the one safe person, or at least tell the one safe person how bad it was.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if I had done that and I had trusted that one safe person, even if that safe person didn't know a darn thing
Yeah.
about money or, divorce or anything, if I had just told them
Mm-hmm.
where I was, I would not have been alone.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think that's the first thing, is we have to be brave enough to actually use our safe spaces. If you don't have a safe space, let me be your safe space.
Mm-hmm.
DM me. Been there, done that.
Yeah.
Gotten the t-shirt. No shame in my game. Let's lay it out. There are people who will be your safe space.
Yeah.
And they will not judge you for whatever it is. Be brave enough to say what you need or say where you are out loud.
Um, I'm not going to get the saying right, but it was a pastor friend of mine
Mm.
who went to Bright.
That's a good
Um,
school.
I know. But she, in a sermon, she said, shame dies when you share your stories in safe spaces. And that is what we're talking about here. And I love that you said reach out if you don't have a safe space. So we will put all of Micah's. We'll have all the ways to contact her and Empowered down below in the show notes, so that you can reach out if you need that safe space. Um, because we shouldn't have to carry that shame around on something that, again, going back to the beginning, We all have to money.
We all have to do money.
We do.
Yeah.
And so let's one, help one another out with it, but two, normalize that we don't know what we don't know, and we can ask for help.
Yep. 100%.
Is there anything you want to share with our listeners before we sign off here? It's been a wonderful conversation.
No, I just, one of the things that I have really taken on myself is I am not the poster child of perfection on the other side. I still trip, fall, stumble, face plant every once in a while too. And so I think that's the other part we have to own is that this isn't a journey to a destination. This is you know, a lifelong work. And so the more that we get okay with having tools in
Mhm.
our tool belt and growing that tool belt, the more we'll be okay with okay, like this past week, right? The whole world is on fire about money,
Uh-huh.
right? Everybody is trying to get on or off a roller coaster of whatever, right?
Yeah.
And if you have the right tools in your tool belt, you can step back and go, y'all ride that roller coaster. I'm good over here. Y'all are going to get sick on that thing.
That's right.
Me and my budget, we're doing just fine. And even if things at the grocery
Yeah.
store cost a little more tomorrow, we'll still be just fine
Right. Right.
because I know how to make choices.
I just had this conversation with someone about this very thing. I was
Yeah.
like, okay, so we're just going to have to shift our budget. Like, I mean, it's not a fun thing, but like when
Yeah.
you know
Yes.
that it's in your control and in your power, and you
Yes.
can react the way that benefits you and what you're trying to build and do, and
Yes.
then it is a tool in your tool belt. That's a great way of putting it.
Absolutely.
It is not the one and only answer. It is not a magic bullet. It is a tool that you can keep coming back to recalibrate as you need to.
100%.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming and sharing your light and your wisdom and your story with our listeners. And again, we'll put all of Micah's info down below. But thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. This was delightful.
It was so much fun. All right. And riff rain, because go
Yeah.
frogs.
Go frogs. All right. Take care.
Bye.